So when we comes with when we come with quality product, the quality product does not only mean bug-free production side, easy ongoing applications to the user. It's not only that. What we need to make sure is like there is no memory leaks around there. The application is optimized properly, and and these things cannot be monitored by a human intervention or a manual process. Okay, so with an automation, we can easily monitor all the memory leaks in an application, whether or not the flow of an application, or let's say the SQL data, the data loads are optimized or not. So all these things can be easily done using automation. Okay, and these are the first 3 points that I have just talked about, and we got like 2 more points. So continuing with the why do we need automation, the next point followed up is it facilitates with the reusable test scripts. Now, what does it mean? So in modern technology, what do we have here is whenever we develop an application with modern tools like some of the training tools, right? We in the present days, there are Reacts, there are AngularJS, there are Vue.js, right? So we're using all these tools. What do we do is like we create an application using reusable components. Okay, so in context of development, we do reuse those components, and we don't repeat the development of the same component again and again. So it's the same thing when it comes with automation as well. If I'm writing a script to automate the testing of a component, now if we have another component, same component in our application, we can simply reuse those scripts using that. Due to which, what happens is like in the long run, we can, while in the development process, can simply reuse those scripts, and yes, it leads to the speedy development or speedy test of our application from a QA part, okay, from a tester part. And the final point that we have here is like it helps to validate complex scenario effectively. Now, what I would like to give a scenario here is for supporting this point is, let's suppose I, as a QA engineer, my job is to validate that every input box performs well, okay? And I have a test scenario where I need to make sure that there are only 150 characters in a text box, okay? So in that scenario, what I need to do is like, being a manual tester, what I need to do is like, I need to count the number of characters that I've inputted in the text box. Or what we can even do is like, for the easy access, what we can do is like, we can go to any website, third-party search portal. We can simply generate a random string of X number of characters, and we can copy those characters and then process with our testing. But this action would become tiresome in the long run. So what we can do is like using a programming concepts such as loops and helper functions and other programming tools. Using automation, we can easily imitate all these functions that we need to test in our real application. So yeah, these are the 5 things that I have occupied in this presentations, which I guess is good enough for a start to support why do we need automations ahead. Okay, so yeah, this is what it's all about. And yeah, do we have any confusion with it? Do we have any questions regarding all this? You guys can raise your hand, or you guys can simply leave the message in our chat box. With our host can continue in our last session. Okay, so I'll just continue with my presentation. So these are just the supporting points. Why do we need automation in our day-to-day life, development life? Okay. Now let's do a chart-wise comparison between a manual testing and automation testing. Okay, so programming tests, performing tests manually is time consuming, and this is one of the greatest reason why developers today are moving towards automation. If you look in the chart, you can see that the weightage for the execution time and people is a bit more compared to that of the automation, right? So initially in the phase, when we have to test an application, we need a lot of people to do that. If we are simply doing it before our production release, we need a lot of people to be occupied so that we could test every releases that we have done in this particular release. So if that thing was to be done by automation testing or any automation script, it's just a click of a button, right? So this is what the chart shows here. there are the weightage for execution time, and people compared to automation testing than manual testing is a heavier. When it comes to automation testing, obviously you need a bit, since it's a bit technical in a sense, we need a greater level of training, but that is only in the beginning of a time. When in the long run, that training will enhance your own productivity, and in a long run, you can simply reuse the things that you have written up or compile, and in the long run, that would be really beneficial in the long run. Okay, so this is what the basic manual testing and automation testing comparative chart shows. Okay, so these are all the things overview for the manual and the automation. Now in the from the next slide, I'll be talking a technical part about Cypress, which will be one of the training tools right here in the market. Okay. So before that, before starting or before jumping into automation tool, which will I'll be covering, I would like to start with one of the rules that we have in our test-driven development process. So those three rules would be namely, the first one is prepare, the second one is perform, and the third one would be a predict. So every action, every test-driven development, may that be a back-end development using unit testing, may that be a front-end testing using just tools like that. And similar, it's the same for automation in the QA field as well. What we need to do is like, we need to split down our whole process into 3 steps whenever we are doing or performing a test actions. So that 3 steps are namely prepare, perform, and then there is a predict. So in the prepare stage, this is the initial stage of any test-driven development. Okay. In the prepare stage, what we do is like, we simply prepare the set of data, a set of assets, or anything that are required for in order to perform an action that we are doing. So this is the preparing stage. And in the perform stage, all the actual action is performed in the perform stage. And in the last stage, predict stage, what we do is like, we'll simply assert or verify whether that our action that we have performed before has been successfully persisted or not. So let's suppose there is an example of filling up a form. The preparing a data for the form would be termed as preparing state. The action of filling out the form can be termed as performance stage, and the action of verifying whether my data are persisted in the database, or whether or not the data that I've filled up in the form are saved or not. So that can be termed as a predict stage. I hope you guys can visualize what what I'm trying to explain, right? So this is what the 3P rule defines. So this is similar for every test-driven development. It's not only for the QA, it's for everything. Okay. So until now, is there any confusion out there? If there's anybody has any confusion, then we can surely discuss about it. Do we have? You can raise your hand if you have, or if you want, you can simply leave a message in the message box, and we can surely discuss it in our last event, the QA round. Okay. So with this, I'll continue my presentation with Cypress, and which is one of the training tool in the market today for QA automations. And we've been following and we've been implementing and we've been following these tools in our product and application development phase in our internal projects and for the projects of our clients. And it's been a wonderful journey until now. Okay. So with Cypress, I'll start up with the basic introduction. We won't be going much detail about it. In case if we have a good feedback, we'll surely organize the next session where we'll be detailedly talking about the Cypress itself. Okay. So starting with an introduction regarding the Cypress, what is Cypress? Now, what is Cypress? So initially, Cypress is an end-to-end testing framework. So what does end-to-end mean? End-to-end is the process of delivering a task or testing as if it was a real user performing those actions. Now, these actions can be anything. It may be filling up a form, drag and drop operation that we carried out in our browser, or filling out or opening a drawer in our web panel. So all these actions can be defined as an end-to-end testing. So if there is a feature, so we simply test it from its beginning to its end. So that can be termed as an end-to-end. And Cypress is a wonderful tool that allows us to do this thing, and it has a great support for it. The second thing that I would like to mention, like it is built on Mocha framework. Now Mocha is an underlining JavaScript library for testing, and it's really simple in a sense. It's really convenient to use and super easy to install. So yeah, this is our Cypress framework is built on top of Mocha framework. Okay, and we have to look from the top view level. What can Cypress do is like any action that we can perform in our web browser, right? Cypress helps us to do every single part of that. There may be some tricky part. There may be some alter cases, but if we can put some good logics over there, we can like test whatever things that we can perform in a browser using a Cypress. Okay, so this is what the basic introduction about a Cypress is. And in the following slides, what I'll be showing is like I'll be simply showing you the video where we'll be showing how a Cypress is actually written in Cypress, how test cases are actually written in Cypress framework. Okay, and in the following slides, I'll be explaining one by one regarding how it works and what are its highlighting features. Okay, so this is a sample demo of how we code in Cypress. Okay, so in this application, what are we doing? Sorry, what we are actually doing here is this is a test spec for a to-do application, simple to-do application. So even if you don't know Cypress, I guess you might have already looked over the codes, and I guess you can hint some of the codes that are already written here. So first of all, here we have is a Cypress cy.visit. Now this is a API for Cypress that we use. It simply allows user to visit this site. Okay, and in this site, what we can simply, this is a performance stage. This is a preparation stage, and this is a performance stage. Okay, since the so in the performing stage, what we have is like the user is simply typing a label of buy some cheese, and he simply imitates the enter action. Now that enter action is carried away with this enter command. This type command allows user to type in using Cypress. Okay. Now there is another to-do list which is known as feed the cat, and user simply creates an enter button. Simply there are another third to-do list that book a doctor appointment, and then a user clicks and enter. So if you look at the code, all the codes are human readable codes, and it's really easy to understand. Okay, this is what Cypress language looks like. Okay, and it's all written in JavaScript, so there won't be a much issue working with Cypress, I guess. And in the last stage, what do we have here is it's actually a verifying stage. So what the user is trying to do here is trying to check the first one, is trying to check the first to-do list which was prepared before in this particular stage. And once, and in the real life situation also, whenever we click a to-do list, that to-do list is not shown in our main viewport. Okay, now this is what it is showing. It is trying to resolve here. It shows like it should not be visible. So after checking that to-do list, it is making sure that that particular list is not showing or it's not visible in our viewport. So this is how simple Cypress is all about. And if I, after pressing the click button right here, what we can see is like how it's gonna perform. So I'll just click on the button. Okay, and I'll continue. Now this is what a test runner looks like, and it imitates, it carries out all the performing stages in this. So yeah, you see. So I'll be talking about all this thing in our later slides. So this is how the Cypress runner looks from a top level view. Is it good? Okay. So with this demo, I would like to discuss about some of the highlighting features of Cypress that we have, that Cypress provide. It may be, I've just collected some of the major points of the Cypress, and there are this, you got to know that there are much more than that I've just included. Okay. So beginning with some of the highlighting features of Cypress that we have is, the first one is this time travel. This is one of the best feature of Cypress, which allows Cypress to stand alone from other frameworks of testing libraries. Okay. So what does it does is like what Cypress does is like Cypress runner saves the screenshots and video of every action that you perform using a test script. Okay, which allows users to debug, which allows users to travel back and look look at the state of actions before. So let's suppose there is an action. Now user can simply toggle before the instance of action and after the instance of action and see the state of that application. So this is a video that I've extracted from YouTube, and it's from the Fireside channel. Um, it's one of the channel where it gives a good information about the tech stock and all. So I'm just going to play a video, and it shows how one can simply toggle the view from one state to another. So here the user is simply clicking at the before and after button, as you can see. And with this, developer and QA engineers can assure the state of the data with the execution of the application flow in the test runner. Okay, so this is what time travels. Cypress allows users to time travel in this way. Okay. The second point that I'll be talking about is it has a greater debugability ability. Cypress provides a very wonderful feature where if a test is broken, or if the test is if test is broken during the execution time, it stores all the videos backup, it stores all the screenshots along with a good description about the test failure. Now, I guess this is how it looks like. Okay, this is how it looks like whenever test is automatically fills in your test runner. This is how the test runner looks like. So it gives the proper information of why did it break, why there is a failure in the application, why did your test fail. Okay, so with this detailed information, one can easily debug, and this is one of the best feature. I guess I personally like this feature in a Cypress. So this is what the this is how the UI of a debugability is shown in the test runner, I believe. Okay, so continuing with the highlighting features, the next point that we have is the tons of supportive plugins. So to be honest, I've been using Cypress since like 6 or 7 months, and the journey has been amazing till now. Sorry, the journey has been amazing till now. So what Cypress does is like Cypress supports a tons of plugins. Even if we look over to the documentation of our Cypress portal, we have a tons of community-driven libraries and verified libraries of its own. So with the help of all these plugins, what we can simply do is one can simply enhance the default behavior of the Cypress. And to name out some of the example, one can Dockerize using multiple plugins, and one can use the CI/CD running pipelines using all these plugins. And one of the good features that Cypress provide is like we can simply group the test cases. So there might be some test cases where we want to run in our smoke testing. There might be a different set of tests that we want to run in our regression testing. So we can simply group all of these tests using a tag, and we can easily run all this using all these third-party plugins. Okay. So yeah, this is what it is all about. This feature is all about. So continue with my next highlighting feature. We have a relevant hooks. Now this is also one of the interesting feature that Cypress provide with every modern framework, be React or Vue or any other modern technology. We do have a hooks in every of the framework. So what are actually hooks? Now hooks are actually a set of actions that you want to perform before or after your actual test gets or your actual actions get executed. In terms of Cypress, we have a good collection of pre and post conditions, such as before, after its hooks. So maybe the one who has not done or who has not worked with Cypress might find it different, but the one working with Cypress, I guess they are very familiar with this thing, and it is one of the very good things feature where we can summarize our code and implement the reusability feature of our test spec. So this is what it's all about. And following my next highlighting feature we got is a dashboard. So dashboard is very important when we want to analyze what is happening in our test spec. So let's suppose I ran the test before each deployment using a CI/CD pipeline, and we don't know what the real stats of tests because it is actually run in our production server. We don't have access to that. But in Cypress, what we can do is like every Cypress runner is linked with one of the dashboard. Now, this is what dashboard looks like in a Cypress, which shows us each and every information about how much time did it take to execute all the tests. So if you can see, the first test took around 9 seconds to run. The second test took around 17 seconds to run. And with every check marks, a developer can be assured that his or her tests are getting passed in our live survey as well. So in case of failure, test failure, this is how it shows. Okay, it shows a red icon, red mark, and developers or any QA team or a product owner are well aware that this particular things is not working properly. So we need to look over that instance. Have it be a case if we had to run this thing manually, it would take a more time, right? So every stats is shown in a single screen. So this is where Cypress is, I guess, it, it creates a mark on its own. So after that, the other feature that that Cypress provide is like cross-browsing testing. So me myself being a developer myself, what happens sometimes like I deploy my new feature to a staging or a production server, everything is working fine in my end, but in the client's end, it's not working properly. Why? Because they've been using a different browser. So this kind of issue happens in a real software development process. But what we can make sure using Cypress is like we can define the browser that we are going to test. Okay, be it be Chrome. If you want to check the test case or run the test over the browser in Firefox, we can simply mention those things using a parameter, and yeah, there you can do using Cypress. This can also be done using Cypress for multi-browser testing. Okay. The last thing that I have here is viewport sizing. Now, in real time, if our application is to be responsive, we need to check, we need to verify that the viewport is working and it's perfect in all device size and all. So if I had to manually do that thing, I had to switch from one viewport to other using our inspect section in our browser. But using Cypress, what we can do is like it allows everything. Cypress allows us to test the responsive layout by changing the app's viewport service. So we simply have to define the viewport, and there you are using Cypress. Okay. So these are some of the limited features that we have in our which suppose Cypress in the community, and there are more than just these highlighting features in real Cypress. So for that, I guess we need to run other sessions as well. So this is what I mean about. Now, what I want to show, what I want to talk, I've already talked about the manual intervention. I've talked about the automation things. Now the question arises, and people might be wondering, is it hard and fast rule that tester do need to code? Because in real market, if people don't want to code, if people don't want to relate to coding practice and all, they usually join the QA field. But is it what the career is all about? Does QA don't have to code or what? So um, as for my experience working in this IT field, what I can say is like the main role for the QA software QA engineer is to make sure that the application, there is no error, there's no bugs in an application or in a production side that the client or the other customer are using, right? So in either way, you can verify that thing, whether you can do the manual testing, whether you can do the automation testing, as long as there's no issue there's no bug in the production side, it's a good to go. But in the long run, it's all about how you want to deliver the tasks. Okay, how you want your tasks to, how you want to monitor and verify the features in our application. If you are following, if you are manually testing it, you'll test the same thing today also, you're gonna test the same thing tomorrow also. And if there is a product, if the application are all about product based application, in next 5 years also you're gonna test the same thing. But if you could spend like an hour or a week or a month to learn automation, and you could simply develop some script where you can carry out all those actions using an automation, I guess your life would be easy, right? a click of a button, we can simply execute the tasks that we've been doing it every day. And with this, there comes with the growth of our personal career as well. And in the international market also, people are today people just don't want a manual testing. They are opening vacancy for automation testing and all. So with every automation, there comes with other benefits, like your thinking ability gets better, your life becomes easy, and on a click of a button, your actual processes, you get to do a lot of time in a small, short span of time. So this is what I think about. And yeah, is there any views that you guys want to share regarding it? Do people really have to code for testing? If you have any views regarding it, you guys can, yeah, the stage is open for you. Is there anyone who wants to share or discuss regarding this topic? We have anyone? I guess I don't see any hands raised. So with this, I've come up to with my end session, and there's one more slides for this, and that would be the prerequisite. So if there is someone that wants to move from manual to automation testing, what do we have to do? The question arises here. What do we have to do? So, okay, I'm a fresher. I'm a fresher. I want to move from manual to, so what do I need to do? So the first thing that you will need to do if you are planning to move from manual to automation testing, the first thing that you need to do is, like, you need to know how to write test cases and test criteria. It's not that you can directly jump into automation testing without knowing a prior basics about writing the test cases and writing the test criteria. So first and foremost, the thing that you need to know is you need to know how to write test cases and test criteria. The second point that supports is, like, you need to at least know the basics of any programming language. That can be JavaScript, that can be C, that can be Python, that can be anything. You just need to know the basic programming concepts such as loops, the uses of variables, the uses of constants. Where do you use variables? Where do we use constants? What is the difference between variables and constants? Okay. And the basics of how do we perform, how do we call functions, how do we make functions. So if you have basic idea about this basic things, yeah, you are one step closer to automations. Okay. You are one step closer to start your journey with automation. And last thing that everybody knows is you got to have a good learning habit. For every tech that we've been involved in tech industry, without learning, we don't get a chance to be sustainable in the market, because every day there are new technology comes and we got to be updated about it. So every developer must have a learning habit on its own. Okay. So with these three basics, priorities and prerequisites, I believe that one can easily jump their career into QA automation rather than getting stuck in a manual automation. Okay. So yeah, this is all I've compiled in my presentation as for today. Thank you all of you for separating your time and joining this session. So yes, if I'm gonna share the stage to Biraj, I guess if he has any question, he can let me know. And I guess we can start with the question and answer round. Biraj?
All right, so we don't have any questions at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
However, the mic is open to
Yeah.
everyone. And
Do we have any questions yet? You guys can ask me anything. If I'm able to answer you, I'll surely answer. If I'm not, I guess we got some expert around here with us as well.
okay, Abhishek Shakya asks, could we build page object pattern framework design on Cypress?
Exactly. Exactly. We can do that thing. Exactly. And I've been using those things. So base object, if I would like to talk about base object approach as well. So what does base objects approach allows us to do is, like, to separate our main functionality into a set of smaller actions, a smaller set of functions, so that we could simply reuse those actions. So suppose if I want to fill up a form or fill up, let's suppose there is a name fill out there. So I create a separate functions which would name as a field the name field. Okay, the function name would be field the name field, and that function will be responsible, or every logic, every single logic for writing the filling up the form will be written into only that function. And in this way, if we could separate our whole action into smaller chunks, it will be easier for us to reuse in our applications. And for better readability also, it creates a readability. So exactly, we can do that thing. It's just an approach. We can do it in any way. It's just an approach. So it does not matter if whether we are using Cypress, Selenium, it doesn't matter. It's just simple JavaScript classes. So we can do that definitely in Cypress.
Okay, so there's another question. Vivek Podel asks, as a developer, will it be best practice to learn automation too?
As a developer, as a software developer, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So me myself, I work as a backend developer, okay, and I'm learning here as a automation tool. So it has been a good journey until now, and one can always. It's not good. It's not bad to be updated about all the things. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with learning a new one. Okay. And if you're planning, if you're a developer, you might have a better vision in developing a automation tool as well. So yeah, I guess yes. In that sense, I would approve that and I would support that thing. There's no
Okay,
harm learning an extra tool or extra framework.
okay. So we have another question from DPS Pathak.
Hmm?
He asks, how hard is it to set up an automation architecture in an organization which follows manual testing?
So yeah, in and all, you got to start with the testing. I'm not here supporting Cypress or this or that auto framework. It's just that you need to start doing it. Until and unless you don't do it, your what do you call that? Your aim will not be fulfilled. So you got to start it anyway. So just start it with a simple module. Start with a simple, don't go for a bigger complex model. Start with a basic module of maybe on authentication module where the user simply logins and lands it to the landing page, dashboard page. So simply start with that thing, start with the smallest thing, and slowly and steadily you can simply increment with the bigger feature. So in our organization too, we got a big product feature and we've been implementing in a similar way. We started from a smaller one and then gradually we are stepping one after another. So this is how we started in our, so it's not a good choice to start with a bigger one. So always go with the smaller one. This is what I would like to suggest with whoever has asked a question. So
Okay.
did my answer was, is it what you wanted to know? Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So, okay, we have another question. So it's from Heiko. He asks, how would you go about a client who is new to automated testing and
Huh?
relates it to another investment rather than long-term advantages?
Okay. So in that case, how would I propose is like, I would go it side by side. First, I would research on my own. What I'll do is I'll ask my team. I'll set up a meeting. I'll first investigate or I'll give a hit and trial for our application. Will it be suitable for our application to go with this or not? First, I'll research on my own, and then I'll plan accordingly. I'll show benefits of doing an automation over the manual testing for our client. And yeah, if I be able to showcase the thing that I've been doing manually instead of automation, I guess there would be the client will also be, he'll in a way he'll get a output of what he wants to see, right? So rather than directly jumping into the client, I'll I'll investigate, I'll do research on my own whether that will be possible or not. And if there is something that is there to showcase, then I will approach to my client showing things that I have done. So let's to call it as, okay, this can be done in this manner. The advantages are this, rather than doing this. So this is how I would approach to my client, I guess.
All right. Okay, so another question from Suzal Shakya.
Mhm.
Does Cypress automatically generate report or do we need to add some dependency to generate it?
Yeah, we do have to add some dependency, and those dependency are very lightweight. They are not bulky enough, and you just need to link that thing using an ID. Okay, and you can simply sign up using your Google account or something like this. And so the process is very much simple, and the third-party plugin is also very lightweight. So there is no extra bulky codes in our application that can be definitely be done.
Okay, another question. How do you decide how much amount of testing is required and deciding which features to test, which not to test?
Okay, so with that, what we first we need to set the priority of our application. Okay, there might be a feature with where user won't be using that features. Okay, for every application there is a primary feature. Okay, if we are talking about the, let's suppose we are talking about the Netflix, so our primary feature would be to stream an video online, right? I sign in with Google, sign in with any other third party application. That won't be a high priority feature for my application when it comes to Netflix, right? So first we need to prioritize our application and the features within our application, and on the basis of that priority we need to set our test cases. Okay, so if I had to write automation script, I would rather start with a good high priority feature rather than the low priority feature. So yeah, this is how it goes, I guess.
Okay, I hope some more questions are gonna come.
Hmm?
Please raise your hand if there are any questions, and then I'll push it to the presenter. Okay, we have another question from Sudeep Kimire.
Hmm?
He asks regarding the automation and manual testing, is there any global standard for weightage, like 60% automation and 40% manual?
Okay, for that, what we have been doing with my team is like there are some cases where we tried to do an automation testing in a feature, but it was a bit complex in a sense. So for those, what we have done is like in that case, if we keep on if we keep on stucking in the same thing, we won't be able to achieve more, right? We won't be able to achieve more implementation of automation script. So what have we done is like for those scenario where we find it difficult to script, those module we simply, as per now, what we are doing is we are testing it manually. Okay, there's no, the weightage system is depending upon the priorities of our organization, how organizations run and all. In our case, we've been trying to implement in our system, but there might be a cases where there is some blockage in between. Okay, there are like third-party application which does not allow automation test to run on its own. So for those case, what we have done is like we switch it to manual one and make sure that application is running. So rather than testing every feature manually, it's good that your manual intervention is limited to some part. Okay, something is better than nothing, right? So this is how we've been doing it. So when it comes to weightage, I don't think there is a good this standard for defining the weightage. It all depends upon organization to organization and project to project, I guess. There's no definite weightage for it, I guess. I believe so. So our main goal is to implement automation in the long run and touch maximum of the feature, right? But that may or may not be accomplished depending upon the technologies that is used for building the application. So there might be some barrier as well. So yeah, this is what I want to say.
Okay, I hope. Okay, so we have another question from Jivan Dakal.
Mhm,
Suppose I have a SaaS-based project and I
mhm.
want to test something automatically on the basis of real one of the client's data.
Yeah.
How can I achieve that using Cypress, or do you suggest manual in this case?
Now, what does now SaaS application here? It means there is a subdomain part of it, and can the question be a more specific? I want to know the specific. I can the one who asked the question be more specific about the question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I am. So basically, I want to say, suppose I have a SaaS-based application. So I'm giving service to the clients, and I have, let's say, more than 3,000 clients on my
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
So and suppose I am stuck to my QA did not test it well, and I am stuck on a bug, and I want Cypress to test it manually for me using client's data. Is that
Clients.
possible?
What does clients data mean?
let's say let's say one of my clients is e-commerce vendor, and I'm an e-commerce website, and I have 3,000 vendors, and I want to test data using vendors product itself. Let's say
Oh,
from
okay.
directly from the database. I don't want to assert anything.
So Cypress, what Cypress does, what we do using Cypress is that we simply log into the system of any of your vendor account. Okay, we'll simply in real time also what we do is like we go to our application using a username and password, if I'm not wrong, right? And once the application loads up, I guess fetching up a data, putting of application is all done from the backend end, if I'm not wrong, right? So let's suppose I have a vendor called abcd dot, let's say cypress.com. Now here abcd is the vendor for you, right? And what does, I'm not sure about what does vendor data means here. How does it relate? I'm not particularly sure about it. What do you mean to say about the data? I'm not particularly clear
Let's say,
about.
let's suppose my developer messed up and he allowed price negative number price. He allowed system to enter negative price as well. So one of the vendor entered minus $100. Let's say. So there will be bug for sure.
Exactly.
And if there are millions of products, you won't be able to find the specific product. You won't be able as a developer, right? So in that case, I want something to test that for me and report me the bug. And what do you suggest? I'm not talking about Cypress itself. So in that case, what do you suggest to me? What would be your suggestion?
So first of all, your application allowing a price field. Okay, you're allowing your price field to accept a negative data. Now there is a bug in its own. Now this is not the Cypress job to detect that thing. Cypress is just a UI intervention. So it's actually the backend thing or the front end logic which must handle this kind of validation, in my sense. Okay, so our backend servers should not allow such kind of data from such field, because price or quantity can never be negative, right? So rather than working it from the testing field, it's something to prevent it from the backend itself. I guess this is what I guess. If we don't allow the user to allow negative value in such case, and we could simply add valid data to that field, I guess we can achieve that thing, isn't it?
It is, but one of the developers already forgot to do, and vendor already started entering the wrong data. The system is already messed up. Right.
So
I want
and you are
something.
particular, you are and from your end, you know which are those fields that you need to correct or validate, right? The data is already there in the database, I guess, right?
Yeah, already there. So I'm just asking, are there any automation backend tool which can generate data for me without having to write any extra code for that? So
I'm not sure about it right now. So
just asking if there is
yeah,
any tool.
I'm not sure about it right now. Maybe there might be. I'm not particularly sure about it at this moment, I guess, for that.
All right. No
Okay.
problem. Thank you.
We can, yeah.
All right. So another question. How much time does it consume to write Cypress test? Can normal developer do this? And can Cypress eliminate dedicated QA? Three questions.
Okay, so when it comes to time, it's really super easy. The APIs provided by Cypress are really human understandable language. So any can could easily relate to what does it mean and what does that particular function performs. Okay, so when it comes to learning curve, the learning curve, you don't have to put a much effort with that. Okay, and when it comes to replacing the manual intervention, there is not something that I would like to assure about, because without manual, I don't think we can automate things, because there must be one must perform a manual intervention first, because even if the bank, if you go in a bank, there is an automated teller which counts the money on its own, right? The teller simply insert that money, it counts. But what does he or she do at the end? He simply counts it once more. So this is what it's all about. There is a platform which allows us to do, and there is a Cypress. And for double layer of verification, you can put that manual intervention. So you can carry out a manual intervention once in a year, in a 6 months or something like this. And on the daily basis, what you can simply rely on is the automation framework that we have been developing through any third party tool. Okay. So combination of both, I think that would give a best output to an applications. I guess this is what I can say it from my end. And yeah, if we could add up both the layer, I guess we can achieve better output.
Okay. So another question, when can we migrate from manual to automation? Is there any time frame to consider while migrating from manual to automation?
So when it comes to time frame, I don't think there is a specific time there. So um, uh, as a developer, as a QA engineer, there will come a phase where you'll know that you are not you are bored with your own job. You are bored doing the same thing again and again. So there is a simple form, and you're making sure that that form works well in again and again. You're performing the same tasks today also in the 10 day from today. You're performing the same tasks, and you have a feeling of monotonous, right? So I guess that is a phase that you think that is the best time to migrate from manual to automation. So yeah, I guess that is the moment that you need to switch to automation, I guess. And when it comes to greater, what do you call that? For better level of applications or bug-free application also, if there is a sense of need of automation, I guess you need to start doing it rather than just sitting back and relying on the same manual process.
Okay. Very interesting question from Abhishek Shakya, as he asks, any limitation or shortcomings on your experience while using this tool?
Yeah, I do have some experience because first of all, Cypress does not allow user to run the tests in Safari browser. So this is one of the greatest feature lacking or limitation of the Cypress, I believe. And unlike Selenium allows user to code in any language of user's choice, but Cypress is limited to JavaScript only. And yeah, JavaScript is a bit, you know, a bit different than other one. So these are two of the features that have been facing a greater issue from my end. So greater issue being I don't be able to test it in the Safari browser, and most of the international clients, they do use Safari on their end. So the, this is where we lack using Cypress. And yeah, as for now, this is what. And since I've been using an older version of Cypress, I've been using 9. In the 9, we don't there is no cross. We can't open two browser at the same time, but this feature has been solved in the new version of Cypress. So yeah, Cypress is evolving on its own. So in the near future also, there might be new patches, a new feature where they allow us to run the script over Safari browser as well, I guess. So yeah, these are the two of the major limitation that I feel personally.
Okay, so we are in the end of this session, and we are gonna take only 2 to 3 questions more. So an anonymous listener asks, how easy is it to integrate Cypress with Bitbucket or GitLab pipelines?
Yeah, I've done that thing. There is a good plugins for all those things in a good documentation, good scripts, YAML file written over in the documentation of it. I've personally used it with GitHub Action, and so far, you don't have to even work or do an extra set of invest on this thing. Those scripts are already there in a properly documented in the documentation, and you can see it supports a GitLab Actions, it supports GitHub Actions, and it even supports Bitbucket pipeline execution as well. So yeah, there is a good documentation in the official page as well. So that must not be tough. But the thing is that you need to know what does that script tells or what does that script means. It's just there is a proper documentation about it in the document in the official page. I can.
Okay, the last question for today. Sahaz asks,
Yep.
doesn't Cypress provide mocks and stubs for data?
Yeah, they do provide. I've learned those things, I guess, but I've not used them personally as until now. Yeah, but they do allow. I've heard it somewhere in a blogs or something like this, but I've not personally tried that thing. So
All
I'm
right.
really sorry for this one.
All right, so we are in the end of this session, and that was an amazing session from Mr. Shakya. And thank you everyone for joining the fifth public knowledge sharing session on how to migrate from manual QA testing to automation QA testing. We hope that this was of value to you, and we look forward to your presence in future sessions.
Yep.
Okay, so we have our links to the social media handles if you'd like to know more about these. And if you have any confusions, you can always um, contact us. So yeah,
Yep. Thank you once again,
thank you
guys.
so
Thank
much.
you once again, everyone.